Hello, Tanse everyone. I am Nipawewen Wachiasquil, Standing Mountain Woman. My given name is Arlise Lafreniere Watney. I am of the Battle River Cree people in Eagle Hills, Treaty 6, also known as Red Pheasant Cree Nation in central Saskatchewan. I am an Indigenous Engagement Specialist with Atkins Realis, currently working on this project, and I am honored to welcome you to the public open house for Webequie Supply Road. We're excited to share our vision, progress, and plans with you today. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on traditional lands of Anishinaabeg, which includes the Ojibwe of Fort William First Nation, the signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850. We also want to acknowledge the spirits of the land, the water, the elements, our four-legged brothers and sisters, and all the other tribes that have contributed to the growth of today's society for thousands of years. At this point, we would like to welcome our elder for our morning prayer. Yeah, ready. You can speak in there if you want. Thank you.
Hello. Eko nga bakin gage kekshebam hitchigang morning prayer. Kumagajin nagatakumadmasin gagi toda kumagajun shindagne tekoskan magin chakun. Nuitenon toda manan magamonshak nonskishkagun. Karotan matoda manan gasya magamtin matadsin. Kves katse sagstid gan kaman besnagan. Ngabasigon estanen daban utain ngaidat magan utain mentodan gsigon aitan. Nestagine jobben magan debegen tag ngigostid kaven. Egan de baskon gesken no deben sin set bastamaden. Namana net maskadaven ten magan. I am hadau. Me magasia penanong. Kasi tibata penanong oe. Kauyan yamistikä. No tänään chiisgon gaittaan gatoiksen tigatin kaasuin. Kitokaman gatoitun kiiten tamon gatoistot gatotaski taskut chiisgon. Minä annos kaikki jäkkään te maatsank. Weben tamasnan magan yönnistyynä. Ei se bentamakin tekenen kantuutaan tek. Eikä nämä tänään kesikakoitsikaveak maagamitaan matikeekaan. Westvaginnakin tepenäisnä kamaut. Näistä kaskuunet tekten tausin. Kaikki kenestä kaikki. Amen. Man tuu kaikki arsen. Kinnaakkumme kunnon kun kalli keiksepääk. Miikväst kaikki kaneen missään kaikista pekkääk. Eikö minne oikeaan niin maatsi keiksepääk. Kun en käy miten käät. Tuonte mennossaat. Eikä kun tuon näin kvarteekisikään. Kävis tuota muat. Tekisi tuot kaikki. Kun käy miten käät. Missä sinun nakkumina ne maatihöminä on Jesus Christ. Amen. Osaintikin teben me taas Jesus Christ nettos laagangtuanto. Että uitien peneksesak men sekkoitsikkä me konnu kaikki. Amen. Amen. Miikästi. Miikästi.
Hi, Elder. Thank you so much for those words. Today's public information session is an opportunity for us to share information about the project, which is uniquely led by Webequie First Nation, ensuring that the development of this project aligns with their values, traditions, and needs, also bringing a wealth of knowledge and a deep connection to the land, which is crucial for the sustainability of this project. At this point, I'd love to acknowledge those that are tuning in on the live stream. If at any point you do have questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave those in the comment boxes. You could also visit us at supplyroad.ca and submit any of those there as well, today or any day moving forward. At this point, we'd love to dive into the details of the project. I'd like to call upon Dawn Parkinson, Consultation Lead, to provide an overview of the process involved in identifying and evaluating project effects. Dawn?
Thank you, Arlise. And as she said, I'm going to do a little bit of a project update today. And we'll start with talking about the purpose of the Webequie Supply Road project. Three main purposes are moving materials, supplies, and people from Webequie Airport to the McFalls Lake area or the Ring of Fire area, providing local employment and economic development opportunities to Webequie community members, and then finally to provide for the youth experience and training opportunities and to encourage the pursuit of additional education and training as well. In terms of the project itself, it's a planned 107-kilometer road, 17 kilometers of which sit on reserve lands, and the final corridor width will be 35 meters. In terms of other aspects or features of the project, there would be 6 major water body crossings. And when we say water body crossings or major ones, we're talking about those that would use a structure other than a culvert, typically bridges. And there are 25 other water crossings along the route as well, and those would require culverts. It also includes temporary and permanent aggregate pits and quarry areas with equipment for processing. And then, of course, there's access roads and water crossing structures, if necessary, that are associated with those temporary pit and rock quarry areas as well. The plan is to have 4 construction camps along the route, spaced essentially equal distance from each other, and then they would, of course, accommodate the construction crews. One of the sites of the 4 campsites would be serve as a base for operations and maintenance once the road is finally constructed. And then in the course of construction, as part of construction, there would be what you call storage and laydown yards, which would be temporary, meaning they would be restored upon project completion. And this is for storage of equipment and materials. On the next slide, we're showing the Webequie Supply Road preferred route, as well as the proposed camp and pit quarry locations. In terms of the pit and quarry locations, the plan is to extract material from 2 different locations. One large deposit is in the extreme southeast corner of Webequie First Nation reserve lands, but most of that deposit, from what we can tell, sits on reserve lands. And then the other site is to the northeast in the Winiscussis Channel area. But the 2 sites together would provide materials for both construction and maintenance of the road for its expected lifespan, which is typically, according to MTO standards, about 75 years. This project, as you probably know, sits in the context of 2 other all-season road projects. It is the furthest north of the 3 projects. The road itself, as I mentioned before, is planned to run from Webequie Airport southeast to the Ring of Fire area, McFalls Lake area, where it would then connect with the northern end of the Northern Road Link, all-season road, which would extend down to connect with the Martin Falls Community Access Road, which then extends south to connect with 2 other what will be upgraded resource roads that ultimately connect with the provincial road network. In terms of engagement and consultation, we are currently in round 3. Round 1 started in 2022. Round 2 was in 2023. our consultation has been a multi-pronged approach involving, obviously, use of our website as a sort of a resource center for the project, distribution of notices, virtual meetings, in-person meetings, Wawate Radio Network radio shows, and then things like live streams and internet-based shows as well. In terms of the themes of the comments we've received on the project well over 1,000 comments over the time that we've been doing this environmental assessment. The themes include road ownership and policing. So who will own the road, who will administer the road, who will police the road, possible effects from all the projects together. So when we look at this project in the context of all the other projects from the past and that are currently operating, and any like what you call reasonably foreseeable ones in the future, that's the context that they would that the project is evaluated within. We've heard a lot of comments on job opportunities, on a few comments on potential impacts on water quality downriver. Climate change is a big topic. Selling gravel and rock to build the road is another topic. Treaty rights as well. And then concerns about more drugs and alcohol getting into communities because of increased access from the south. So the actual environmental assessment process, in plain terms, involves initially describing the project and deciding what will be studied and how it will be measured, identifying the limits of those studies, so what will be studied, the time frame that will be studied within, the study area, like the land, that would be the actual land area that's studied for each of the different subject areas. And then the next step would be is in the actual identification of possible effects of the project and how these effects can be what you call mitigated or controlled or eliminated or reduced. And then the question we ask in this process is whether there are any leftover effects or residual effects. And then the step that we're in now involves looking at these leftover effects from the past, present, and future projects, the big picture essentially, identifying any monitoring that's required, and then comparing advantages and disadvantages of the project versus doing nothing, which is the status quo, the way things are now. So when we talk about this word called mitigation, again, it means reducing or eliminating effects. And I just wanted to break that down a little bit and explain it a little bit further. It could involve eliminating or avoiding a possible effect by moving the road. Reduction, so if you might be able to reduce an effect by changing the way things are done, by designing the road differently, by using different construction methods. And then there's another form it can take, which is what's called offsets. And that would involve, for example, cleaning up an area somewhere else that has been affected by another project, or improving habitat in another location that might have been affected previously to make up for possible effects of the project. So when we look at project effects, the kinds of things we think about, there's a lot of different things we think about. Surface water, so lakes and rivers, the land, soils and terrain, groundwater or spring water, air quality, fish and fish habitat, so where the fish live and the fish themselves, the plants and wetlands, wildlife and terrestrial habitat, and then species at risk as well. Other topics that we think about when it comes to potential project effects is people, the social environment, the economy, so the business associated within a community, lands and resources, health of community members, the environment that we see, so the visual environment, Aboriginal treaty rights and interests, culture, the effects of all projects. I talked about this before. We call this cumulative effects, looking at the effects of not just our project, but our project plus all the other projects. And then also a couple of other things that aren't obvious, accidents and things that can go wrong, looking at possible situations like that, and then climate change. So I was talking before about this big word called cumulative effects. So what exactly does that mean? Well, that means looking at other projects in the area and saying, what are the effects that each of those projects have? So these are past projects, these are current projects, and these are projects in the future that we think would probably go ahead. So it's almost like you're looking into a crystal ball to help try to anticipate possible impacts. So we take all these leftover effects from each of the projects, put them together, then we see what we can do to limit or reduce those impacts, mitigation, and then we end up with the cumulative effects of the project. And then this map here you see on the screen shows the different projects that are being looked at as part of the cumulative effects analysis for this project. And finally, in terms of where we are now, we are in consultation round 3. We're looking to get feedback on the effects assessment. We're continuing to assess potential effects of the project, including cumulative effects, and we're also continuing to collect Indigenous knowledge and land use and resource information. And then the winter of this year, fall and winter of this year, we'll be collecting input on the preliminary effects assessment of the project, collecting input to proposed impact management, mitigation, and follow-up monitoring. And then we're hoping that by this fall, we'll have a draft version of the document, the impact statement, and the environmental assessment report, draft version, out and circulating, and with the idea that the final version would be completed by summer of 2025, and it would go to the minister for a decision. So with that, that's the end of the presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them as well. And I will pass it back to you, Arlise.
Another round of applause for Don. Thank you so much, Don. As he mentioned, community involvement is at the heart of this project, and we value your input and feedback at any phase, any process, any part of this journey. You could visit supplyroad.ca to input your comments, questions, concerns, and overall feedback. At this point, we want to thank you all for your participation and engagement today, whether it was through our live stream or right here in person. Shout out to the people that showed up today. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to working together and making this project a success. So until next time, see you later. Thank you.